we got to talk about three guys, Ethan, that the Spurs have acquired in free agency. Or not in free. I guess it is technically free agency. It's
During
really,
free
excuse
agency.
me, off season is really the word I was looking for there, and just the trade circus. And it's really just we got picks and players to make trades happen. And with the Cavs, we got Lamar Stevens, who's a forward from Penn State. And then, of course, Cedi Osman. A lot of y'all might remember him from the LeBron championship runs. And he's been in Cleveland since. And then, of course, Reggie Bullock, which really, in my opinion, is probably the best overall player that we got. And as much as if I had to pick one player out of this group to maybe beat out Champagny potentially, it would have to be two, I think, with the way the numbers work out. But just for the sake of conversation, I think it would be Reggie Bullock. It's just somebody who could maybe compete for taking minutes from him just because of his experience, being a veteran. And I mean, he's somebody that is just like, when you can get him for free, basically, when you're
Yeah.
bringing in a player like Wembanyama, who draws so much attention, to bring in an elite 3-point shooter for free is really nice. And that's before even getting into Cedi Osman and Lamar Stevens. But just tell me your thoughts on all of these.
Yeah. So what do you do when you have a 7'3" big? You surround him with what, Jude?
Shooters.
Shooters. And the Spurs have managed to do so. I saw a tweet the other day. I can't remember the exact number, so whoever's in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong. But it was something like there are two teams in the NBA that have two players that shoot 45% from three. And then there was another aspect of that. I can't remember what it was. It's not just 45% in general, but it was Klay Thompson and Steph Curry from the Warriors and Doug McDermott and Reggie Bullock from the Spurs. So we didn't even mention Doug, but
Right.
all of these guys can shoot. They're all 3-and-D wings, and they can pretty much play 2, 3, or 4 at any given time. And we already have 2 3s and 4s that can also shoot threes. Like we have Malachi Devin as well. We got Keldon Johnson. We have so many shooters all of a
Even
sudden that can
Mamu.
play. Mamu can, yeah, he's another one. Like we're gonna have some decisions to make, but I like the moves because there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with competition, especially in training camp. So they'll go at one another. Pop will decide who deserves a roster spot, who doesn't. And I think at this point we're looking for guys to compete. We're not looking for guys that necessarily 10 years from now are going to be better players. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying we're going to win, but we're trying to move in that direction. So I like the moves and veteran presence because when we lost Gorgie Jang, we lost what's his name? Josh Richardson's obviously not here. Jakob Pertl. We only have Devontae Graham really as our vet. So it's nice to have these guys in the locker room as a presence as well.
And, it's funny. Cedi Osman's most recent post on Instagram after getting
Mhm.
traded to the Spurs is him in Paris with the Eiffel Tower.
Oh,
So,
man.
they're excited,
Yeah, they are.
because of the Wembanyama stuff. But, this is, I'm going to tap into one of the guys who probably people are just like forgetting whenever it comes to this trade. Or not forgetting, but the one that they're just probably like, not really worried about that.
Mm.
And that's Lamar Stevens,
Yeah.
obviously, right? And I went and watched, there's actually like an 18-minute highlight tape on YouTube with like most of his plays, not from this past season, but his rookie season the year prior. And, I was also just on his Instagram, and obviously this is all social media stuff, but there were a lot of Cavs fans in the comments that were like, hope you come back, or like, good luck, we're going to miss you, like really liked you. And he, if you look at his stats, he was never anything crazy, but he started like 25 games for them this year. So, I mean, there's that. That's way more experience than I would have
Yeah.
expected just off of what, you thought. And obviously he was a role player, but there was an article that came out, I believe, on Pounding the Rock, right after he got traded, and what they call them in Cleveland was a junkyard dog. And, that's exactly, that fits the Spurs mold. But the bigger theme with all of these guys, because even with all of this being said and his highlights looking a little bit better, and his just, experience and stuff being at a higher level than, I expected off of just hearing his name. These guys, most likely he's still not going to make the team, but these dudes, like all three of these guys, are like way better than your normal training camp competition people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
think about it. Tommy Kusi last
Yeah.
year. There's some other guys that I can't remember that were on Exhibit 10 deals, but it was all guys that you'd never really heard of for the most part. And really, Lamar Stevens is the only one here, as people know Cedi, and of course people know Reggie Bullock. But even then, like, it's not like Lamar Stevens is just somebody who hasn't played in the NBA and hasn't had a role somewhere.
Yeah.
And the role that he played in Cleveland would be a very similar role to the one that he's played in San Antonio. And the other thing about Lamar Stevens is his 3-point percentage has consistently increased throughout his career. I would say that still, for the most part, he likes to use his physicality. Honestly, like, think of him. I don't want to be disrespectful, but
I know where you're going.
you know what I'm about to say, Keldon.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
I was.
I
That's
was
not where I thought you were
I
going.
was gonna say like Keldon earlier in his career, but like basically not as good. I hate to say that to you, Lamar, but it's just I got to be honest here. You know what I'm saying?
I thought you were going to say a better Romeo Langford.
Oh no. That's not what I haven't seen too many of his defensive highlights. I don't think he's a like just a potato there either. I don't think he's a slouch, but I don't know if he's necessarily
Mm,
elite either. It seems like
gotcha.
more of his highlights were just offensive plays. A lot of them using his physicality at the rim. That's why I was kind of comparing him to like more of a lower level Keldon. But the
Gotcha.
3-point shooting has got better, where it really was pretty bad like to start his career.
Mm,
But he played 4 years at Penn State. And is kind of he had some shades of Jalen Pickett, if y'all know who that is. He was the guard that got drafted by the Nuggets from
mm,
Penn State this year, and it's just a similar thing. Physical frame, he's bigger than Jalen Pickett. Jalen Pickett's a guard, but like I said, physical frame, likes to get a lot of buckets inside because of his physicality. And the junkyard dog mentality means he's definitely got to at least try on defense. And the 3-point shooting, while it wasn't there to start the career, similar to Jalen Pickett like coming in, it's something that's progressed, and Keldon as well. So hopefully things can work out for him. But like I said, these guys are the caliber of player that they are, for potentially just being guys that are going to compete with our guys that are already on the roster for training camp
yeah.
is a much higher than normal because of the Spurs circumstances, Ethan. And I know I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but
No, no.
this was another thing that I thought, dude, like, we're in this situation, we're able to do this because of the amount of cap space we have,
Yeah.
right? And that just once again is another thing with Brian Wright. It's not not just the decisions he's made, to get to the position we were in the lottery this year, and the way that he's developed guys. And obviously there's been some draft picks along the way that haven't worked out, but for the most part, with Keldon, Devin, all three of last year's picks. I mean, I know Blake still has some work to do, but he's done a really good job drafting with personnel, but he's
Mhm.
also done a really good job managing the CBA and putting us in a position to where we're one of the few teams right now that around the league where teams can call and like, hey, can you help make this trade work and take on these guys to even be in this position in the first place. So I just had to give another shout out to him. Obviously, there's a long road ahead, and the real, like, prize for
Mhm.
Brian Wright is the championship. But still, we wouldn't even be here and be able to have these guys. And depending on what happens, we'll see what their future in San Antonio is if he didn't manage this the way that he did. I know that was a
No, you're
long rant there, but it's like there's so many little intricacies with that where it's like all webbing together, kind of the plan that he's put forward.
yeah, knock on wood, and I'm no disrespect to the other teams, but it does feel like he's been fleecing guys or fleecing teams. And part of that is not necessarily that they're losing, but they need us. You know what I mean? Like we're an essential part of those trades that end up
Hmm.
we're acquiring Cedi Osman, Lamar Stevens, and Reggie Bullock. So shout out to him, most definitely. You summarized that pretty damn well, Jude. But I was gonna say one thing. Gosh.
Well, here, I got a question for you, Ethan.
Okay, go
Just
ahead.
just just talk to me about like what you think the potential of maybe those guys beating somebody out could be. Like, who do you think has a
Ooh,
chance to make the team? What do you think their role is going to be in training camp? A lot of it,
yeah.
this is pure speculation, really, but I think that they're definitely going to push some guys, like especially Reggie Bullock, I think is going to push for a roster spot.
Oh yeah, I think Reggie Bullock and Cedi Osman are
Yes,
pretty
both of them.
guaranteed, like, not guaranteed, but they're pretty freaking close to being guaranteed
Yeah.
a roster spot. Like those are quality players. For them not to be on the roster next year, it would, in my eyes, it would simply be just like, okay, you don't fit the timeline. We appreciate you coming to training camp, but you're waived. Go sign wherever you want. That kind of thing. Not so much, oh, you suck, you're trash, you can't fit on this team, because they're quality role players. They can play for majority
Yes.
of teams. So who would they beat out? How many spots do we have? Is there, if they both make the team, is there one person that has to go? Is that where we are at this point?
I believe so. I don't know that for a fact. I'm about to look up
Oh,
real GM here so we can confirm this, but I believe that
Mhm.
that is where the Spurs are at.
That's a conundrum, dude, because
Yeah.
we have the two-way guys are pretty much set already, so we can't move anybody to a two-way. That's out of the question.
Hmm.
There's tough decisions that have to be made, Jude, because just going through the 10-man rotation, Trey, Devin, Keldon,
Here's what
Wemby,
here's what we're about to do, Ethan. Keep talking.
Collins, and then we got um, Blake, Devontae. Ooh, Devontae. I don't
See,
know.
that could be somebody you could cut. But then again, he's on the sideline traveling with the team. And I know that's not the end all be all, but it's like a lot of
Yeah,
times that can be an indication. But then, Keita Bates Diop went somewhere else, and like 2 weeks before then we were posting about him.
yeah.
Granted, he won an NBA award, so you kind of have to, but
Swatcho Bros mentioned Mamu as well because we got some forwards. I don't know. I love Mamu, but you're not wrong. Kem Birch. Oh, he's gone.
I forgot about. And I joke? Did I send you my like best lineup for the
Yes, you
Spurs?
did. Yes, you
Yeah.
did.
How could I forget? No, we're just gonna cut him or Devontae. That's never mind.
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm glad that we brought this up though, so we could see the full roster, so that we could kind of have some clarity. Um, and yeah, that probably is what would happen. Consider at least Kem, bro, because Kem has
Yeah.
been non-existent. Like Devontae's played. He was with the guys on the sideline at Las Vegas. Kem's been nowhere to be found. Like his contract's like only like 6 million. So that's probably what's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
that kind of solves our dilemma there, Ethan.
And if for some reason we end up needing another person, probably our boy Lamar Stevens, unfortunately.